the Jews and the Arabs, though, would fight, but again, it's nothing on the scale of Islam.
Okay.
There would be little disputes and so on. Some people would get killed, so someone from your tribe would get killed. So, okay, now we get to kill someone from your tribe. There would be things like that. But again, nothing on the scale of Islam, where now all of you either convert or die or get out of here, or be subjugated to us.
Because we know from history that Muhammad went back to Mecca to kill his own tribe, his own people after that, in one of the
tribal loyalties just didn't matter anymore. And what's interesting about this first point, the first point is just that some people looked at this and said, look at Muhammad's ability, look at Islam's ability to make people who were totally normal, very violent and ready to go out and kill and slaughter. Look at that. There must be something true about this religion. So that's not how we would think today. We wouldn't normally think that way. Look how violent this religion can make people. But back then, apparently, some people were attracted to Islam specifically because it had the ability to make people very violent and even willing to kill their own family or friends.
There is similarity. We suffer from violence today. We see it in our TV screens, the programming, and everything. Yes, in some places in the Middle East, we see it all the time on a daily basis, violence taking place in any countries, Muslim against Muslim, Muslims against Christian. And here in the States, we said there is a lot of violence in our culture today. Is there a similarity between this, the spread of Islam, violence, or the social?
Well, I think there is. I think there is a similarity between now and back then, namely in that you have some converts to Islam in America.
Yes.
You'll notice they convert to Islam, and a few years later, they're in Pakistan or Afghanistan fighting jihad. And I think that some people might have a reaction that's similar to that of Hua Yisa. Namely, they look around and here's American society or Western society, and we're focused on, we're sitting around watching TV and not really being gung-ho for a cause, not really going out and fighting for a cause and ready to lay down our lives fighting for something. We're sitting around, we're entertaining ourselves, we're watching football, we're eating dinner, just living it up. And they sit back and look, and here are these guys, here are these jihadists, and they're going out and fighting and laying down their lives and blowing themselves up. If their religion is what inspires them to be willing to lay down their lives and to be so gung-ho for a cause, maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's something to that religion. And so you have young people, 18 and 19 years old, converting to Islam and just want to go fight jihad. They want to go fight jihad. It must be true. If these are the guys who are so willing to go and lay down their lives for some cause, maybe what they believe in is true, and we find the same reaction back then. It's probably the same thing. You got Jews and Arabs, and they're living together and just trying to live their lives, and all of a sudden, here's something, we want to fight and die for something, and we're ready to go and kill and slaughter for it. Some people are attracted to that. Some people now in the world today are attracted to it, and people back then were attracted to it.
This is what I'm watching. I mean, I'm trying just to compare the era of the Islam when it started with this kind of violence, and the violence today that's taking place, and it seems to me some of it is inherited. Most of it is inherited, especially in the Middle East area, especially if you look in any Islamic country in the world, and you see the movement in these countries and how they are acting, how they are against democracy, how they are against the rule of law. They have their own rules. Your democracy came man-made, but our whatever laws we have, came directly from God. And then you see what's coming directly from God is encouraging people to go and conquer and kill in the name of a God maybe they know or maybe they don't know. Can we go now to the origins of Islam itself, how it got started and spread?
What do you mean, the origins of Islam?
The origins, Muhammad received a message from God to go. And some people was for it and some people weren't for it, and they fought. They have these famous crusades between him and his family. Then once they settled their own land, they began to go out.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, but Muhammad, what Pastor Joseph Habibi is pointing out here is Muhammad begins receiving his revelations. Now, for the first couple of years, he didn't run around preaching openly. He only talked to people in secret. Got a few converts during this time.
What's that year exactly? What are the years? That's Islam.
This is about the year 610. So
610,
around the year
all right,
610,
all right.
Muhammad, that's the year that Muslims
Okay.
believe Muhammad received his first revelation. Muhammad is born around 570 AD, so he's around 40 years old. He receives his first revelation. Muhammad, of course, believed he was demon-possessed. He believed that this revelation was demonic in origin. But
He said that himself?
Yes.
I mean, or there is a Quranic scripture that says
it's in the Sirah literature. Muhammad thought that because poets back then, they believed had a spirit attached to them, and so Muhammad said he'd rather be dead than demon possessed by a jinn who's inspiring him and giving him words and stuff like that. So Muhammad actually tried to throw himself off a cliff. But Khadijah, his wife, convinced him, no, this isn't an evil spirit talking to you. This is an angel talking to you.
All right.
So I've pointed out before that Muslims' faith in Islam actually rests on Khadijah. Do you believe Khadijah could recognize a prophet?
Muhammad himself that has the call cannot differentiate if this is God.
Muhammad could not tell.
So his wife has to tell him.
Okay. Muhammad could not tell. He could not tell the difference between a revelation from God and a revelation from a demon. It was it was Khadijah who said, no, this is a revelation from God. Yes. So Muhammad, for the first couple of years, didn't preach openly. He eventually started preaching openly for about the next 10 years. He condemned the paganism of the Arabs, of the Meccans, and they tried every means in their power for a period of 10 years to reconcile with him and to get him to stop standing outside the Kaaba and condemning their religion. Now, this is important because Muslims during this time complain of persecution. Look how the pagans were persecuting Muhammad. Well, how much were the pagans persecuting Muhammad if the entire Muslim community was able to live and survive for a decade, for 10 years? Let me ask you this, my Muslim friends. If I went to Mecca today and I preached against the religious beliefs of the people in Mecca today, would I make it 10 years? If I stood outside the Kaaba today and started condemning the religious beliefs of the people there, would I last 10 years? Would I last 10 days? Would I even I tell you, I would not last 10 minutes if I stood outside the Kaaba and I started saying, what you people believe is false. This is not true. This is from the devil. I'd be dead instantly. That's intolerance. So don't tell me the pagans persecuted the Muslims when Muhammad was able to do this for 10 years openly. But they did start persecuting, nowhere near as much as Muslims would later persecute them.
I want to go back again to this era of the beginning. Is it Islam that was telling us it was so bad and was paganism and this and this? I thought that area was thriving. There was Jewish and there was, there was literature and there is scientists there appeared from that era before Islam.
Yes, yes.
So why Islam is trying to put it? It was so bad that Muhammad can come and save them all from.
Well, Muslims are desperate for evidence. They don't have any evidence, and so they kind of. Think about this. Let me give you an example of how they will exaggerate things. I've had Muslims tell me that Muhammad came along and he ended the practice of female infanticide. So you'd have a child, and if your child was a woman, you didn't want a female child because she wasn't going to grow up and be able to do a lot of work. So you just throw her out into the desert and let her die. Now, it's true that did happen.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Every society has that.
Yeah, and it's true that Muhammad did say, don't do that. He told his followers, don't do that. Don't throw your babies out into the desert to let them die. So there is a small degree of truth in the claim. But Muslims will actually say that there were tons of these, it was happening all the time. It was all over the place. Everyone's just throwing out their female babies. And there was this massive number of female babies being killed all the time. Now, watch what happens. So they say, this was the situation. People are just killing all their female babies. And then Muhammad came along and ended the practice. Now watch the contradiction here. Because Muslims will also say, when they try to justify the Quranic claim that you can have up to 4 wives, Muslims in the world today will say, that's because there were far more women than there were men. There were far more women than there were men, and so men had to be able to marry up to 4 wives so that these women could have husbands. Now, think about the contradiction here. On the one hand, you're telling me people are just killing all the girls because they don't want the girls. And on the other hand, you're telling me there's so many women around that Muslims have to marry 4 of them at one time. Do you see how Muslims will exaggerate things in order to defend Islam, in order to pretend
or to work
that there's
for
some
the
kind of
benefit
evidence.
of spreading Islam itself.
Yes.
To work for their benefit.
And that's something we'll be talking about in a little while, namely how Muslims spread Islam today. And they do it by